I really don't want to do this. I really don't. Right, we are back with another ring video. Can we put ice into a ring? Really quickly, if you're new to my channel, check out my ring making playlist. Hashtag 118 will show you kind of what the setup is. With this idea, I really want the ice effect to really stand out. So I'm gonna need to do a black base, and I am using UV resin for this video. You can do this with 2-part epoxy, but remember that you need to wait for the base layer to cure, unless you use something like a black nail varnish maybe that will dry quicker. So I am just going to pour a small amount of UV resin into my mixing cup, and I'm just going to add a small amount of black mica powder, but remember not too much because you do want it to cure. And just mix that in thoroughly. Once that has mixed, we can then turn on our machine. I want it going the other way, so I turn it off and turn it back on again, and it should, there we go. Sometimes it takes a few clicks. So if you watch carefully, you will see that I haven't stored my machine away properly, so it's got a kind of a bit of a bow to the turning rod, but it will still work. I'm just going to apply with my dotting tool the black UV resin to the inside of the ring, try not to get it over the edges as shown in previous videos. Now again, I will mention this again, if you use heat on this to pop any bubbles, be careful because it will lower the viscosity of your resin and it will begin to drip off of the ring, making a mess. And as it's turning, once you've got a decent amount on there, just move the dotting tool or whatever you're using, cocktail stick, whatever. Just wiggle it from side to side and touch the edges to cover the whole inside of that ring. Okay, I've put, I think, enough on mine. It's hard to see. I'm going to place that behind it, and you can see at the top and the bottom you've got a dip, which is giving us room to then move on to the next stage. Obviously, if you're doing this with epoxy, you're going to have to wait for this to basically cure or become very tacky before you move on to the next stage. But I'm going to cure this for 2 minutes under my light, just like that. Okay, so now that has cured, I want to wait for the UV resin to cool down. Sorry, there's a noisy motorbike in the background. I've got my door open. I want to wait for the UV resin to cool down because obviously it heats during the curing process. If I apply the frost paint now, what's going to happen is it's going to crystallize really quickly and we're going to get a different effect to what I want. And whilst it's cooling, in my little mixing pot, I'm just going to add a few drops of my Frost Effects paint. Again, this is the Vallejo game colour. Make sure it says Frost on the bottle because there is another version that looks the same, but it's a snow effect. I haven't tried that one yet. It could look pretty cool. Now I've just got a paintbrush that will fit inside that gap, and I'm just going to dip that onto my brush and then hold my hand steady and just apply a very thin coat on the inside of the ring, and then we'll see what happens. I haven't tried this yet, and we will reassess as to whether we need to apply any more. So there is a possibility that the crystals that are the ice effect that's going to form could come over the edge depending on how much you put on, but don't worry about that because that easily, very easily comes off with just a wipe. So I'm just going to wait now. As always, massive shout out to my channel members, anyone who's bought me a coffee or a super thanks, and to anyone who's hit that sub button. So it's only been about 3 minutes, but you can see there's some areas on the surface starting to crystallize. See that patch there that's just gone round? So just be patient. It's not really doing much at the moment compared to the end of my paintbrush. You can see those really cool ice flakes. So I'm gonna actually, it looks like it's doing more now. I'm gonna give it another 5 minutes. I spoke too soon, I think. No, I'm going in with more. I really want as much as I could get inside this ring. So I'm applying another layer and then give it a good maybe half an hour and see what happens this time. So it's been about 15 minutes since I applied that second layer, look at these crystals starting to grow over the outside, but I want them to start growing in the middle. I think there's still quite a bit of liquid in there that needs to start to crystallize. So it's only been another 5 minutes since my last little snippet. Look at that. If there was only a way to keep those there but they would catch, I could try and encapsulate them with resin. I mean, if you want to try that, it's entirely up to you, but what I might try to do, if I can, is take them off and place them inside, depending on how much growth I get in the middle. But that's incredible. Okay, so I have to say that was very unpredictable. But thinking about it, it's pretty obvious that it was going to do that, thinking about it now. Because of that dip on the inside and it curves, what's happening is the liquid is finding the lowest point down here and it's beginning to kind of run over to the edge, which is making the snowflakes grow on the outside and not the inside. So what I'm wondering now is, do I just scrape off this excess and start again, and hopefully it will build up the middle, or do I try carefully transferring those into the inside of the ring? I think I'm gonna try the second option first. So I've stopped the machine for the time being. I think what I could have tried is applying, without the machine turning, just applying droplets on the inside. I don't know, they could run down, they could stay. This is all new. So can I don't think this is gonna work, because it's not going to allow me to remove them. And to be honest with you, who's going to want to sit and do this? It's just not, it's not going to work, is it? But they're so cool, look at them. I really want that one inside the ring, but it's just flaking when I try to pull that off. Right, option one then. I really don't want to do this. I really, really don't. They are so cool and I'm just removing them all off. This is horrible. I wonder if I can apply them, now they're broken, into the middle. Oh, this is the thing with experiments, you just don't know how it's going to work. I don't know, I'm kind of making this up as I go along, I have to. And the bits that have fallen off maybe. But if I was to put more of the paint on afterwards, what should happen is it should use those crystals that I put in there to latch onto, to then create more. So maybe forming the crystals in the first place and then applying them in the middle would have been the better option. So now I'm just picking up the pieces that have dropped and just trying to get them into any of the gaps, because I really want to make this work. And it does still look like ice, which is really cool. Right, I'm going to apply some more, just small amounts, and hopefully it will kind of latch on, like I mentioned, in the middle and grow upwards instead of outside the ring. You know, you could be saying, Dan, you've got some patience, but like I've mentioned in many videos, sometimes you just can't rush these things. What may have been a good idea would have been to create a very, very thin line of resin in the center, so that the liquid could hold on to that line in the middle and then grow outwards from that. I'm getting there, but I'm gonna add some colour. I should have done this from the beginning. I was thinking that if I added the colour it would stain, but obviously it's a black base, so it's not going to show. So I'm just mixing in some sapphire blue alcohol ink. I'm gonna add a little bit more of the frost paint. and then I'm going to add some white mica powder just to make it glisten a little bit. Really should have done this from the start. Again, I'm making it up as I go along. And now I'm just going to dab that onto what's already there. This is becoming long. I hope it doesn't stain and show. It shouldn't do. We will see. Okay, you can see there's another one there. So the first one is actually starting to look really good. What I did, I just kept, as it was growing over the side, just using a bit of tissue, just rolled up the end and just held it on the outer rim. And what it does is it removes it, but it also pushes it inside. So any bits that fell off, I just quickly picked up and just dropped in the inside, but it is starting to form some really nice crystals inside the gap now. Now this one I did exactly the same from the beginning. The only difference is when I applied it just really faintly in the middle of the gap, and then as it was crystallizing, just tiny little drops around so that they don't all merge, and then the gravity kind of allowing it to grow over the sides too much. So little by little with that, honestly it doesn't take too long. And what I did find when I said earlier about letting the UV resin cool down, if you don't let it cool down, it will crystallize really quickly, which then creates a building base for us to then dab small amounts onto. So you can't do that with epoxy, but it's a good tip. I'm kind of learning as I'm going. So once you've got that webby effect from the heat, it crystallizes within seconds. Just tiny dabs as it's going around, it will then start to form crystals and latch onto that webbing. Right, now that has fully dried, I left it overnight. I didn't really need to. It was dry within maybe an hour or so, but I had other things to do. So with the turn up go in this direction, I'm just going to start very slowly applying my UV resin bit by bit until that dip that I showed at the top and the bottom have gone. We're just going to get the whole piece flush. Hopefully it's not going to disturb any of the crystals that we've put in, and hopefully it will work. Now, I know I said about heat lowering the viscosity and the resin dripping off, but I'm just going to, it helps the resin spread right to the edge of the inside of the ring, just click blasting it with my mini blowtorch. Not too much because you don't want it all dripping off. But what it does is it allows it to spread and hit the sides. And then I'm going to give that a good 2 minutes under my UV lamp, and then I'm going to give it maybe another 2 minutes water cure, just in case there's any tackiness to that UV resin. We don't want to be leaving fingerprints on it. Right, this one's getting a little bit long, guys. I really do apologise. So I've tried again, but without adding any black base. I've just gone in with the coloured frost paint. Now I'm going to apply my UV resin the same as I did in the other ones, but I'm hoping that it's going to absorb into the crystals that are hanging over the sides. I don't know, but I'm going to give it a try. Whether I have to leave it for 5 or so minutes turning before I cure it, and hopefully those crystals will absorb it, so we've got that frost effect remaining on the outside. Already I can see on the right sides that it is beginning to suck up the resin. So I'm going to leave that for a few minutes just to see what happens. I mean, it's working, so I'm now going to cure that. Let's see what happens. Okay, so it kind of worked. It has absorbed the resin. It's not sharp, it's not going to catch on anything. There's some bits of fluff that I need to pull off. Needs a bit of a clean. But I wish that I'd kept that on the other ones now. You can see, I don't know if you can see, there's better ice effects on the inside, but it's really hard with this light and this camera to see them. But obviously a black base would have made that pop a bit better. Right, let's see the other two. So this was the first one. Some really cool ice effects going on inside there. Really does look frozen in time. Needs a bit of a buff up, but I think that's pretty incredible. You can't really see the ice effects though. They're so small. I'll try and get some macro photos. See, there's like little clusters there. There are clusters all around, but it's tricky to see. Right, the second one, again, as always, give the video a thumbs up, drop me a comment. If you haven't subbed, hit the button for me. I prefer this one. I think the colour of the metal really complements the inside effects, and you've got that really nice sparkle from the mica, which just adds to it, and it's perfectly centered all the way around. Let's try and zoom in on that one. I really do apologize that it's been a kind of long-winded video, trying different things and making mistakes, but we all have to learn with the struggles sometimes, especially when you don't know what you're doing. You know, with the video content, with something like this, it is just me making it up as I go along. I haven't trial run this. Otherwise, it would have been a tutorial and it would have been boom, 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 done. This is how you do it. I prefer showing you what can and can't be done the hard and long way. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. I'm going to be wearing this one. I think it is absolutely stunning. Right, guys, I will see you for the next one. Bye for now.